Who knew Blender transforms could be this easy? What's up? I'm Jonathan and welcome to Maker Tales, where I'm sharing my maker journey to help you go further in yours. So don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell icon to never miss an opportunity to keep making. Every now and then there are revolutionary updates for Blender. But there are also revolutionary add-ons, and this is one. Get Cad Transform Movement super easily, super quickly, right now. Like every great Blender add-on, it starts outside of Blender. So to get this add-on, we have to go over to Stephen's Letters, Gumroad, and get it right here, Cad Transform for Blender. Now, you can get it for free, but I seriously encourage you to give this guy even €5, €1, €10, as much as you think that this has saved you in time. I know me personally, I'm going to be giving this guy at least 25 because this is a revolutionary add-on in my eyes. You install this great add-on like any other add-on, going into Preferences, Add-ons, Install, and just while we're here, I want to point out that here is where I've changed my text color and text size, because you're going to see in my examples now that it is different to what the default is. And one last thing is make sure that your units are at what you want them to be used at, as I found that when I installed this add-on, it changed my default of my units. There is a lot to cover here, but I'm going to do my best to cover it as quickly and concisely as possible while getting the information across. The entire video is going to be cut up into sections, so feel free to watch things over and over, and remember, you can always slow down the video. Just before we jump straight into it, I need to point out that this is still fresh, in my mind and out from the development. So there are a few tiny little things that I think are still work in progress, but my goodness, this is one of the greatest Blender add-ons that I think I've ever seen. Once you have Cad Transforms for Blender installed, you will see that you get this new little button. When you click this button, you have a new active tool that has all these snapping options, along with a couple other little things here, such as Cad Transform, Transform, and this shortcut menu, which is huge. You can also have all this information down here in your scenes menu. Now, there is one little thing about this add-on, which there isn't a shortcut to activate and disactivate this. So I personally am going to right click and I'm going to assign a shortcut of Alt-C. On top of that, if you're not too comfortable adding that type of a shortcut, you can always add it into the quick menu by right-clicking, add to quick menu favorites, so then when you press Q, there's the transforms itself. The way I plan on covering this great add-on is by showing you each different operator, the move operator, the rotate operator, and the scale operator. Yes, some of these are quite repetitive, but I have found that they all do have their own little quirks. Overall, I have found Cad Transforms for Blender incredibly intuitive to learn. So let's go over the basics. Over here on the right hand side are all our snapping options. We have vertices, edges, faces, grid, center of edges, perpendicular, face centers, normals, and origins. And this here is the X-ray mode to be able to select things through an object. All of these have shortcuts right here. Trust me, you will learn them very quickly because a vertex is a vertex, an edge is an edge center is shifty, and so on and so forth. So I'll close this up for now. So, first off is snap from to snap to. It's as easy as it sounds. So I already have the add-on selected and on. So I select the object I want, I'm going to hit G, and then I get select what vertex. As you see, now when I hit G, nothing moves. I have to select where from. So I'm snapping from this vertex that I've selected, and I want it to go to this vertex over here. Now, if I wanted it to go to an edge, I can actually hit E right this minute. That activates it to be able to put it onto there. If I want, I can deactivate the edge by hitting E again, and once again, I'm stuck just to the vertices. Similar to default Blender, we have constraints via axis. For now, I'm just going to keep things within our little origin snapping here. So let's go select something, hit G. I'm going to move things by this origin here. And let's go and say we're moving this on the Y. we have this Y, and you see we get this lovely little ruler and numbers that come with us on the X, on the Z, and on the X. Fantastic. But what I really like is you can go Shift Z. We're now on a plane lock, but you can't really tell what our plane is that we're locked to. But if you hit G, you now have a grid that shows you where we're going. So for instance, if we do this on the X, once again, we get a grid that we are staying on our planes. Within our constraints, we also have something called stepped movement. So let's constrain this to the X. And as you see, my numbers are free flowing there. And if I hold down Alt, they now snap to my scaling. So it's every 0.5 degrees. And if I go and hold down Shift, it's per every single step of a point. Now, here I have found that stepped movement is a little bit of work in progress because I have a feeling there's a little bit of a conflict with stacked transforms. I will show you that now, but first of all, I find that if you go holding down still Shift Alt, then we go left click to confirm, then what we have to do is hit escape and it will move it to our exact position. Now, the reason why it's doing that is expecting us to do something called a stacked transform, which I find brilliant. Because if you click on something and you hit G, I'm not moving the mouse here, I'm constraining it to the X. I'm going to set this to 0.001 so it moves 1 millimeter on the X. Then I'm going to hit the Y. So now I'm stacking my transformation that I've just done, and I'm going to move this one 0.02. Oops, I've gone a little bit too far. There we go, 2. And there you have it. That is stacked transforms. And then you hit enter to confirm, and that is a way that you can do stacked transformation of movement. And amazingly, something that I think is very much overdue in Blender is this amazing thing. G, select what we're going to move, and then while we're moving, you can go ahead and click the middle mouse button and move around to see where exactly you're going to be snapping to. So if we go in vertex snap, we can now start snapping, move around, say we're going to be snapping here, move around a little bit more, snap on whatever else we're wanting to. This is something that is incredibly useful. It might not be innately obvious, but with these snap commands, you can literally snap from anything to anything. So let's go from a vertex here, and let's snap this vertex to the middle of an edge. It's as easy as that. You can also go ahead and using this exact same thing, let's go from the middle of an edge to, let's go and hit N for a normal of this face. It's incredible how much you can get with just playing around with these snapping controls. Coming from a CAD-based workflow, we're used to something called soft constraints, being able to move an object by a different destination, so to speak. So not from an object itself. So let's select an object, hit our G. Now this great thing about this vertex select, it doesn't actually have to be the active object. It can be any object that has vertices. So let's say we wanted to move something from the distance that is equivalent from here to this object over there. It's as easy as selecting this object, and now we will move that constraint distance itself. And don't forget that these soft constraints can work in conjunction with hard constraints. So if we do our exact move here, instead of having this freeform, we can set it only on the X to move that distance. On top of that, we can also use edges as constraints. So let's go ahead and get this vertex in the middle of this edge. Instead of using the middle edge, we're going to go and move this, set this vertex here. And now, because I have this vertex highlighted, and you can see this here is the origin point. So wherever I'm closest to this has that little ball. So I'm going to go 0.001 because that's going to move 1 millimeter. Currently, the add-on is set into only meters, and this is why I have to put in so many zeros because I'm working in millimeters. These cubes are only 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters by 2 millimeters. You can also do this to multiple objects by selecting 2 objects at a time and moving them along an edge as well. So let's go for a little bit smaller than that, 0.0005. And there you have it, 0.5 millimeter movement along an edge. Along the same lines as our last example, we can do something along these lines. So hitting RG to move this, and we're going to go for the face of this. So we're going to hit F, and then we're on this face, but we also want to go along the normal. So we're going to go and hit N. And now while we're here, we can hit 0.001, and now we're going to go 1 millimeter on the normal from the face. And let me make this perfectly clear. All of these operations are also available within edit mode. So let's go into edit mode. I already have my CAD activated here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go from edges. I'm going to go ahead and select first my vertices that I'm going to affect. So let's select these here. I'm going to go from edge, move from there, go to center of edges and face centers. And what I'm going to go for is moving from this center here to the center of that face. And now along the same lines, let's go ahead and select these here, hit G, go this edge here to the center line right there. All of these, everything that you're going to see, and all that I'm doing can all be done within edit mode as well. Something many of us are quite used to are smart move or memory move averaging. So this is something incredibly useful. Let's go in G, let's hit this vertex here. Now what exactly is memory move? Well, the way that memory move works is I'm going to tell it to pressing the A to remember this point here, and then to give me that point there, and when I click, it puts it in the average of those 2 points. Once again, this works in edit mode, so let's say we're moving these two here to the average in the middle there. So let's go in G, select this vertex here. We're going to hit A for that vertex over there, A for this vertex over here, and that is the average between those vertices. Another hidden gem in this add-on is custom plane constraints. So let's select an object we want it to constrain to a custom plane, and this time we're going to hit G, we're going to hit C for creating a custom plane, and I want it to be a plane that goes along this face. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to Shift Z to tell the Z to stay up and vertical. I'm going to then click on my corner over here, and I've just created a custom axis. So this means now when I go ahead and I move this and I constrain it first time on the X, it's going to move along our custom axis that we have just created here. Of course, I can hit X again to go back into our global, and then hit X again to go back into freeform. And keep in mind, by using custom planes, you can do custom intersections. So for instance, if we go ahead and no move, we create our custom plane once again, doing our Shift Z, creating this here, and then we're going to move this, constrain it to the X, and now we can say whenever we hit the edge here, that's where we're wanting to go. That is a custom intersection with a plane. Now let's cover the rotate operator. From here on out, you're going to see some similarities with the other operators, but let's jump straight into it. Hitting R and Z will give you a snapping on the Z, hitting R and Y will be on the Y, and hitting R and X will be on the X. Do keep in mind you can just put in a degree here if you so wish. Similar to our move snapping, rotate has the same. So let's hit R, Y, and you can see that if we hold down Alt, we snap to every 5 degrees. If we hold down Shift as well, we get every degree. Now the reason why I say it's work in progress is if we go for an off degree like 27 and do a click, it won't turn it off. However, if you hit Escape, it leaves you with the degree that you left it at. Along with movement stacking, we also have rotation stacking. So let's go R, Y, 45, X, 45, and there we have it. Stacked rotation. And if at any point you are halfway through this and say we were doing exactly that again, so let's go R, Y, 45, X, 45. Actually, I don't want that. Just hit Escape and it will take you back to your last operation. A nifty little thing that we have here in rotation is perpendicular snapping. So let's go ahead, hit our RZ, Now let's hit P for perpendicular, and let's make it perpendicular to this edge, or perpendicular to that edge, or whichever edge we would like this to be perpendicular to. Once again, RZ, perpendicular is already set. Here we have it, perpendicular or perpendicular to here. And very similar to the move operation, we can do arbitrary pivot points. So selecting the object we're wanting to rotate, let's hit R, let's hit the anchor point location, which will be the bottom of this cube here, and on top up here. So we now have an x-axis, and you can see now we're using this as our pivot point. Of course, here you can snap and all the rest like all the rest. Now that we've covered rotation, let's go and quickly cover scale and then show you a couple of hidden other features. Very similar to rotation, the way to do a quick scale is to hit S, hit Z, and there you do. Once again, hit S, hit X, hit S, hit Y. Very similar to our last two operations, we have scale snapping. It goes along the same lines of clicking the object that you want, hit S, hit X, so you have your constraint. Now, I have had this being the most buggy of them all, so let's see if it's going to work out. So let's hold down our Alt, and you'll see that it goes up by percentages of 5. You can hold down Shift, and then it goes in percentages of individuals. So let's go here, let's click. You see that it's opened out, so let's go escape, and it hasn't worked out this time around. Let's undo, let's try it one more time, and you'll see this is why I have a feeling that this is very much still a work in progress, and it's not really working for me right this minute. I have had it work for me once or twice, but be aware that when it does work, it's fantastic. When it doesn't, it's a real pain. One other thing to keep in mind is this is work in progress, so if you're seeing this in a couple months' time, there's a very good chance that the developer has already fixed this. Along the same lines as our rotation and moving, we have scale snapping. So select our object, let's hit our S, let's go for Y, let's go for 2.5, and then let's go in the X direction by 1.3 and hit enter, and there you have it. Scale stacking. I think it's safe to say that perpendicular scale or scaling up to any point that you want is very easy here. So let's say we're going up to, right this minute, we have it set to points here. We can set this over, of course, to perpendicular of this corner here or over there or whatever we're wanting it to be. Currently, we have been scaling everything on 1D. What do I mean by this? I mean that if we go ahead and do scaling on the X, currently this is one-dimensional scaling. However, if you go ahead and hit Tab, you can make this two-dimensional scaling or three-dimensional scaling. By this point, you're probably understanding what I mean by arbitrary scale point, because if we go ahead and hit scale, we have all our snapping points to choose from. So with vertex selected, we can say this vertex over here, that vertex over there, and we'll scale along that vertex. And using what we just learned by hitting the tab, we can scale along that corner itself. Absolute scale is one of our first more hidden features of Cad Transform. So if we go here and we turn this on, the way that this changes things is that when we go about and do a scaling here, what it's taking into account is more the measurement. So if we go for 8.3, you'll see here that it goes for 8.3 millimeters. However, if we turned this off and we did the same operation here and we go ahead and scale within those 2 points once again and we go 8.3, it does an 8.3 percentage, not the overall distance. So that there is what absolute scale does. It lets you do scaling by size. And keep in mind that this can work within 2D and 3D. So if we're going to go ahead and scale this and we knew that one edge right there was 8.5, let's go ahead and scale it. We're going to go and hit H to get our X-ray. We're going for this point here, that point over here. We're going to go ahead and do our tab for dimensional scaling, and let's go for our 8.5, and there we have it. Dimensionally scaled on the 3 axes using the reference of one edge to 8.5 millimeters. A few other little hidden things are here within the transform setting. So when we do this drop down, you can see we can affect origins only, location, and parents only. So let's quickly show parents only. So parenting this over here to this object, we can go and turn on parents only. And then when we go and do a scale operation on this parent here, you can see that the children are not affected. However, if we went ahead and turned that off, and we did the scale operation on our parent here, everything is now parented and has that operation set. Very similar to our parent only is our origins only. This is a tool that I absolutely love because I know that being able to place these origin points right where you want them can be a lifesaver. So when you turn this on, you will see that origin points that are active will get a little gizmo placed on them. So on and off, on and off. And from here, let's go ahead and put it in the center of this face. So going ahead and hitting G, I currently have all origins selected as well as faces. Remember, shift click to activate those. And then let's go ahead and move this, and we're going to snap it to that face. Just the same way, let's go ahead and move it once again to the bottom center face of this cube. So once again, let's click there, bottom center face, that easily. And this applies to all the operations, be it edges, vertices, faces, normals, you name it, you can move origin points to anything you want now. And there you have it, in my experience, the best CAD-like movement add-on that I have ever experienced in Blender. I have to say, from this point onwards, I really don't think there's anything that's going to beat that. In fact, I could even see this being promoted into Blender itself. It is that good. Huge shout out to my patrons. You guys are awesome. And if you've enjoyed this and found this at all useful, I would love it if you'd think about supporting me there too. Thanks for watching, keep making, and let the quest continue.